In tonight's headlines, media tycoon Jimmy Lai denies leveraging international connections to influence foreign policy against Hong Kong or China. Tung Chung residential project receives favorable response from developers after a reduction in the plot size. And 2 Navy ships arrive in Hong Kong for a 5-day visit, highlighting the PLA's commitment to safeguarding national sovereignty.
Former media tycoon Jimmy Lai was back in court to defend himself for a second day in his national security trial, with the focus turned to whether he had issued editorial directives to the now-defunct Apple Daily. Former associate publisher Chen Pui-man earlier testified that Lai had requested to feature the views of the protesters who stormed the Legislative Council building on the 1st of July 2019. Lai confirmed communicating with Chen on the matter through text messages, but rejected claims of offering editorial orders, stressing they were merely suggestions. He stated that his aim was to provide a platform for youngsters to express their views and promote understanding and sympathy in the society in spite of their wrongful actions. His ultimate intention was to prevent the negative incident from undermining the anti-extradition bill movement. Lai also denied reading nor writing a message asking for a list of Hong Kongers involved in censorship and intimidation that the U.S. could sanction. He stated that it was sent to him on the messaging app Signal by someone with access to the Trump administration, and he only forwarded the message. Also presented in court was an article Lai penned for the New York Times, where he warned that the enactment of the national security law could bring an end to freedom of speech in Hong Kong and potentially lead to the demise of Apple Daily. Lai reiterated his belief that the scope of the law was extensive enough to cover anything, including to encroach upon the freedom of speech. He also mentioned instructing the international desk not to publish content critical of then U.S. President Donald Trump only after he felt the need to seek Trump's assistance in preventing the passage of the national security law, stressing that it is unreasonable to ask for his assistance while publishing materials against him. Lai has pleaded not guilty to 2 conspiracy charges of collusion with foreign forces and a 3rd count of conspiracy to print and distribute seditious publications. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
A Tung Chung residential project by MTR Corporation, which failed to attract any bids a year ago, received 33 expressions of interest after the project size shrank by half, with CK Asset, Henderson Land, Sun Hung K Properties, and China Chem confirming that they had expressed interest. The development is located adjacent to the future MTR Tung Chung East Station, which is currently under construction and is slated to be completed in 2029. The current Package 1, located in the southeastern portion of the development site, will offer a maximum residential gross floor area of 373,000 square feet, yielding about 600 flats, almost halving the original plan. Moreover, unlike the first time when the project invited tenders, successful bidders are no longer required to build a shopping mall. Market consensus estimated that the project is valued between $323 million to $800 million, translating to a per square foot price of $1,000 to $2,500, and again, half of the original valuation when it was put up for tender last year.
2 battleships from the People's Liberation Army, comprising the amphibious assault ship Hainan and the missile destroyer Changsha, has arrived in Hong Kong for a 5-day visit until next Monday, marking the first of its kind for a PLA Navy amphibious assault ship in the territory. The Hainan ship docked near the China Merchants Wharf in Western District, where the crew held a flag-raising ceremony. According to the Ministry of National Defense, the visit aims to showcase their strong resolve and capability to safeguard national sovereignty and security. The vessels will be open to the public in Hong Kong and Macau, and the fleet will host a series of open events, including ship tours, national defense knowledge lectures, and cultural exchanges. Over 10,000 people are expected to visit the ships. Hong Kong Airlines, the city's second-largest carrier, plans to bring back long-haul international flights early next year and is confident that its capacity has returned to pre-pandemic levels to meet the demands for the upcoming peak holiday seasons. The carrier's average passenger load factor has reached 85% this year, estimated to carry a total of 5 million passengers for the whole year, according to the company's newly appointed chairman, Yan Bo. For the Christmas and Chinese New Year flights, bookings have reached about 80%, while key routes such as South Korea and Japan are close to 90%. The chairman also mentioned that the carrier has increased its destinations to over 30, including new routes to Sendai in Japan and Chiang Mai in Thailand, and is resuming flights to the Gold Coast in Australia and Vancouver in Canada next January. In order to get well prepared for the resumption of its long-haul service, the local carrier has reopened its VIP lounge at the Hong Kong International Airport and will reintroduce its in-flight entertainment system gradually. Next year, the company plans to increase its pilot workforce by 60% and its cabin crew by 1.6 times, with plans to expand the fleet to 30 aircraft to further enhance capacity. The Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, China was urged by member associations to be more flexible with the newly introduced Code of Governance. The code, which was announced yesterday, listed rules such as mandating term limits for sport association directors, capping their service at 16 years, with an age limit of 75 years. Taking to the airwaves, chairman of the Squash Association and lawmaker Tung Chung said it is good to have guidelines, but noted a small number of directors made it hard to comply with the code. Finding help is difficult. Some directors have dedicated over 10 years of their time, money, and effort. I don't want to let them go, he said, suggesting amendments to allow exceptions for special circumstances. Separately, the code also provides guidelines for methods and procedures of athlete selection. Speaking in the same program, New People's Party lawmaker Adrian Ho highlighted the unique criteria for success in different sports, which might require different athlete selection standards. Some sports require competitions to determine winners, while others, like weightlifting, depend on meeting specific weight standards within a set time frame, he said, adding that the most important thing is fairness and providing opportunities to capable athletes. Ho also mentioned that the public will be able to observe whether sports associations are fairly selecting players at next year's national games. The SFOC will evaluate the code's implementation in 2 years, and sports associations that do not comply will face penalties, such as reductions or even cancellation in government subsidies. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Continuing his state visit to Brazil after the conclusion of the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro, President Xi Jinping and his Brazilian counterpart, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, signed 37 government agreements commemorating 50 years of diplomatic relations between the two nations. The half-a-century-old relationship between China and Brazil is based on mutual respect, mutual benefit, and both countries have a shared future, Xi said. Elevating the ties further, Brazil is the first country in Latin America to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership with China. Although Brazil has opted out of China's Belt and Road Initiative, both nations have agreed to align several Brazilian government projects with the plan. Trade between the biggest economy in South America and China reached a record $157 billion last year, and the figure is likely to swell further after the signing of the new agreements.
Kong's inflation rose by a lower than expected 1.4% in October, down from a 2.2% increase in September, marking the slowest pace in 5 months. The smaller increase was attributed to the dissipation of the low base effect from the rates concession and the waiver of the extra public housing rent in the third quarter last year. During the month, prices of alcoholic drinks and tobacco saw the biggest spike at 21.8%, followed by electricity, gas, and water at 8.5%. The government expected inflation to remain mild in the near future, emphasizing that while domestic costs may face slight upward pressures as the economy expands, external price pressures are expected to ease.